I appreciate you for being here for, Streetlight Conversations. Obviously, as you see, it's kind of based around my exhibition of When the Streetlights Flicker.
Yeah.
And the goal with this is really to bring artists in like yourself that I know and that I respect, and just to have some conversations, about the art. So first, feel free to go ahead and, introduce yourself to anybody who may not know who you are.
Thank you. My name is Davon Brantley. I'm a Cleveland-based artist. I work typically within self-portraiture, depicting mental landscapes, which is all up here, And thinking about the psychology of like analyzing ourselves and the different emotions that are typically seen as taboo, and depicting those to make people a lot more comfortable talking about them. And so I do that, which could take the form of like oil painting, drawing, installation, which thinks about the room as a whole as part of the exhibition. And I'm also an admissions counselor at the Cleveland Institute of Art as well too. And so not a lot of people know about that, but yeah.
I did not know that. Okay. Yeah, I think I knew you were at the Cleveland Institute of Art, but I didn't know in what realm of faculty. But that's super dope, and it's really good that, even outside of the artistic practice, that you still get to kind of revolve around that. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really awesome because I get to work with students who are developing portfolios. Like I get to give their parents more information about higher education and its importance. Especially when it comes to an art school where, a lot of stereotypes revolve around
Exactly.
the arts and like myths. And so it's kind of fun, kind of myth busting and being like, yeah, there's a viable path to this. You just have to understand like what that navigation point is for you. And if it's even for you or not, because it's like college is something that you want to invest in, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nope. Dope. Okay, so I want to start with my first question for you. Again, obviously, this exhibition is titled When the Streetlights Flicker. And for me, that was a term that my mom used heavily of like, hey, don't let the streetlights beat you home. So I knew as it started to get dark, when they started to flicker, like that was about time for me to wrap it up. So growing up as a kid for you, what did it mean when the streetlights came on? What did that signify for you?
It was the same thing. It was literally like once you see it even getting close to them lights coming on, you need to run straight to the house. And so literally like I would stop what I'm doing with my friends and everything, and all of us are just dispersing, running back home. But it literally meant that, I guess for me, an additional step was the fact that my parent and my grandmother wanted to make sure that I was safe getting back. Because we all know about the history of where that comes from. But it's also about that warmth and that comfort of like, this is your safe space, this is your safe haven. Let's like die down for the rest of the night, and get back in a state of peace, So though it was like a crazy time of like, oh, she gonna whoop the hell out of me if I don't get back.
If I don't get back, right.
It was also something for me as like, I know people are expecting me to come back. And having that expectation was like super great for me. Yeah.
That's super dope that this is really like, cultural for a lot of us. Like so many people understand the terminology, like even because they can relate to it. Like for us, like, growing up as kids, when the cell phones weren't, really prevalent or so much technology and smartwatches, that was how we knew, like, it's, the day is, has come to an end. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, because I just thought about that. Yeah, because we didn't really have like the amount of technology we have now and cell phones
Not at all.
And things like that. Like I definitely didn't have a phone, and so that was the only way they would know that I was like good is if I actually came back.
Right. I used to have to over the summer. I used to have to check in with my mom. Like she used to say every hour, and I think that maybe became excessive, but at least, and we would kind of, you kind of check the temperature, like, all right, I don't think this is the day that I didn't tell her I was really going anywhere, like, so I'll just check in. If I went out in the morning, and this is all I'm thinking, summertime, like, as you see, a lot of this work is summer inspired, basically, so I'm speaking really summertime, basically, she's at work, I'm a latchkey kid, and, so if I left the house at 8, I'll check with her at noon, or if I told her I was going to the pool, she would know, okay, he might not be back until I get off. Like, but I know. But if you go somewhere else, you need to let me know that. But no, it's definitely dope. Seeing that so many of us, that's kind of intertwined in a lot of our DNA and how we were brought up.
Yeah,
definitely. So as far as, again, with this all really stemming from childhood for me, I'm interested in knowing from, other artists about their childhood and how that work kind of, plays up, how that childhood plays a part into their work. So what memories from childhood do you find yourself maybe revisiting the most? And how are those, also kind of a two-part question, how are those also reflected in any of your work?
I think a lot of the memories, though I have a lot of good memories of my childhood, for me, a lot of the memories that I kind of have fallen back into like revisiting is moments where it has caused like a huge effect emotionally. And so, in other words, like pretty much more stressful situations, more traumatic situations. That is also where my work stems from, is because with those situations, I didn't feel like I had a system for me to talk about them or to really convey what I was really feeling. I came from like a very like, you kind of hold this in, don't talk about it, that's soft, don't do that, don't do this, operate this way, blah, blah, blah. Very toxic masculine in a sense, which I can't fault them for because that is what they have been ingrained to learn and what they've been surrounded by, and so it translates generationally. But I found myself like attaching to those situations and memories because they had fruitful stories where I can talk about like, I don't think I'm the only one that has experienced this.
Okay.
And I don't think I'm the only person that feels like they couldn't talk about it during that time. And now as an adult, I can, and I can take that agency back because it can go into the discourse of how complex it is for someone to grow up in that situation, but also for the other people who are involved to understand like what their part was. And so I find myself going back to those memories a little bit more. And then I kind of dabble back and forth until, oh yeah, we did have really great times, but also at the same time, this was happening.
Gotcha.
And so it's that duality. But more specifically for memories, I always have thought back about kind of like my 5th or 6th birthday where I was molested. And so that was like the birth of the work that you guys see now with my artwork. And that's why there is so many different personas and different entities in them, because that one situation affected me into my adolescence, into young teen and adult years, which I didn't really come to terms with until I was probably in like the middle of college, because they operated as more repressed memories. And then it just started flooding. Like, oh my gosh, this is why I was affected by this when I was younger. This is why I didn't like
and so many
certain
triggers.
touch. It was like so many triggers that I just didn't know as I was navigating life that finally made sense. And so I was like, I have to talk about this and I have to get this out and I have to put myself under a microscope and I have to put, my entire upbringing under a microscope because it's important. And I want to learn from this. I don't want to just brood on it or let it affect me anymore. I want to really figure out how I can create discourse with other people about these themes and tie them into a mythology as well too. So not only am I just explaining and being vulnerable about these stories and these memories from my life, but I'm also creating a way for us to be represented and our stories to be told when it's not just purely oh my gosh, we're just seeing trauma. And so I kind of play around with making it a little bit more approachable because it's very dramatic. But yeah, that memory is something that constantly is something I'm revisiting because I'm trying to determine is this the moment where I started to experience dissociative identity disorder? And how did that play a part in my relationship with seeing my mom and dad's relationship and the many things that transpired after that, my conflictions with religion and how it was taught to me, masculinity, how I viewed sexuality as well, growing up in a household where all of these things are uncomfortable conversations. And so I revisit like those situations a lot. And I think in a lighter note with that is that I kind of revisit the childhood memory of me being at my uncle's cookouts, and I would record these videos of like our family just being, and I would make like these little music videos out of them. I don't know why I got into that so much, but just documenting people in their raw form and their pure form of how fun we are, and even the little snippets of like people arguing in the background.
That is amazing.
Just recording those moments was like super important to me, and finding this creative way to like remix it and stuff and make it fun for the family to just sit down and watch.
And you were documenting so much, and you probably don't even realize it now as you look back and however long ago it was, and you're like, wow, like this is a time capsule. That's really, and at the time you don't know you're doing it. You're just like, I'm just trying to find something fun. Videos, right. I'm just trying to be creative while I'm at this barbecue. And just trying to find something fun to do, and being, an artist. It was always like, how can I create? So I definitely can relate to that.
Yeah, so it was just super fun doing that and just making all these cinematic things with them, because I think that also translates to my work as well too, in a more direct way. Like my work is definitely more surreal and absurd, but I think my main body of work definitely goes into this time capsule / snapshot that you're seeing of my life transpire through these dramatic images. And so I think those are what I really revisit within my childhood memories.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I first want to say thank you for, sharing that and letting me in there. I want to say I'm very sorry to hear that happened, but most importantly, I'm glad to see that you've been able to kind of turn that, a traumatic event into your art, into being able, another kind of passageway for other people to know, like, hey, it's okay. We can't change that it happened, but this is how we can move on from it. And, just kind of being a poster for that, essentially, and being able to speak freely about it. So I really definitely commend you for that. I'm glad to see that, that you didn't let that be the end of your, your story, knowing what I know about you, being a husband, being a great father. So no, that's really, touching to hear, and knowing what I know about you, knowing how you've moved on from it. So, man, I'm really privileged to hear that, and just again hate to hear it, but I'm really glad to see, knowing how things have turned out for you. So
yeah, and that's what it's all about, is being able to be open with peeps and communicate with you guys about it and stuff. I know, like with my work, with some peeps, they're like, wait, what? That what?
But yeah, every part of life is not is not bright. Like I definitely have areas that that I can relate to you in, like not as far as a molestation, but just the biggest thing for me as a kid growing up would probably be the absence of my father, and then having a stepfather who is at this point my father, but even in those earlier years, especially a early teenager, you're not really accepting of that, because all is the life of your I have older sibling, and then my mom, like, so this is all I know, and then now it's somebody else coming in. So no, I definitely can can relate to a lot of the things that you're saying there.
And do you think that bleeds into your work? I know that's like you're interviewing.
Oh no, please. This is a two-way conversation.
Okay.
I love it. I would probably say it bleeds into my work subconsciously. Like, so I think yours may be a bit direct.
Yeah.
They may ask you, hey, what does this represent? And you may be very blunt in, what your answer is. Mine, I definitely think it does as I think about it. I had an initiative that I started when I kind of got into photography, or earlier in my career, I would say. It wasn't like I started with that, but it was called the More Than a Day Project. And what it was is basically an initiative I did every year to highlight amazing fathers that I knew.
Yeah.
I kind of realized early on when I got into photography that the photos, which was one of the reasons that attracted me to it, a photo will live forever. Like the cliche sayings of a photo tells 1,000 words, and but it's true, and photos are going to outlive me. Yeah. Like, my GOAT photographer, my favorite photographer, Gordon Parks, I still see his work regularly today, whether it's in docuseries or documentaries, or whether even in bits and movies, or, just even online. Like, there's pages. He has his own page, like through a foundation, but his work regularly circulates, is all I'm saying. So the photos that you take basically are going to outlive you, and they're really going to be your lineage, and also they're a narrative.
Yeah.
So I understood that, and I'm like, the narrative naturally is, especially when I grew up, being, I was born in 85, so I was raised in the 90s. And in that era, it was just a lot more acceptable to be a deadbeat dad. Like, it was what it was, unfortunately. Your kid could literally be at your mom's house. Yep. And, you may not have seen this kid in God knows when, but, you're there to, get your plate of macaroni and fried chicken, and you say, what's up to your son? Like,
and dip out.
He's your nephew or something. Yep. And just dip out. So those are things that I could relate to. And I'm like, I know that there's a lot of great dads out here. So I wanted to document that. I'm like, I don't know where these photos will end up, but I'm like, at least I know where I can put them. And I know when it's all said and done, the narrative might be, black dads are, they're historically absent, but that's really not the case for our generation. So I started highlighting that. And I did it for 5 years, basically every year, right around before Father's Day. I would, personally reach out and invite, X amount of dads, and the numbers grew, to bring in their kids. This was totally free. It was a photo series that I did. It was all in black and white. As you see, I'm a huge, I do shoot color, but I just love black and white. But basically, that More Than a Day project, like when you asked me that, and again, I'm really glad that you did, because I've never thought about it that way. That was definitely inspired by me, growing up as a kid who, for at least the first half of his life, had an absent father, until my stepfather came into my life. So highlighting, fathers has always been something that I've had a passion for doing, because I know that good fathers do exist. And I'm like, that's not the narrative like it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more common now, and people are starting to pick up on it, not by my pictures, but just by seeing so many active dads. Like, so it's an amazing thing to see. But no, that's a great question, and I'm really glad that you asked me that, because I've never looked at it that way. So
I was actually thinking of that series when I asked it.
Thank you. Well, you should be the interviewer the way you wrote that in there. Yeah. I'm gonna ask you. The next question I have for you is, when did you know what your calling was?
It took me a while to know what my calling was, just because with my family, they were very much like, we see, you do your little art thing, you could draw this, that, and the third. But I was definitely geared more into like, you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, businessman, whatever. Something that's not art. Right. And so a lot of my life, like literally like 75% of my life growing up was them gearing me towards that, because I was like super smart as well too. And so like most of my classes didn't revolve around art at all. It was more like, we're gonna get him in honor stuff, we're gonna get him in APs and all of that, and that's all you're gonna take. But there was never like an AP studio art, there was never like an AP ceramic or anything like that they were trying to put me in. It was always like something super academic,
calculus,
world history.
Yep.
Yes. And like, though, I enjoyed it because it was like, there's a lot of these people that are understanding this book that I just read as well too, and we can like discourse on it. I was always drawing, from elementary school to middle school to high school. I was always known as the kid that drew things, and would make up anything possible. Like even in elementary school, I almost got kicked out of it because I was selling my own customized Dragon Ball Z cards, which is illegal, I guess, in school. Because I was making money from it on the grounds.
Wow.
And since it wasn't a fundraiser, they like literally called my mom and everything. It was like, he can't do that. And like, also my mom was questioning why I was coming home with like money as well too. And I was like, I'm selling my own little Dragon Ball Z cards. I made Super Saiyan 1000 or whatever.
I love the hustle. I hate to interrupt you there, but man, I'm the same, some of those same kind of stories. So that definitely is.
Yeah, they definitely taught me how to be a hustler. There was no way I wasn't going to be able to make any type of money. I found my way whenever it was. But I didn't really take it seriously until my grandmother passed, which she was a big support system to my artistic practice anyway. Like, she loved what I would draw. She always would get excited and giddy about it. And I tell this story all the time about, like, when I would pause the TV on Spider-Man and I would just sit there and draw. They didn't get irritated at it. They were just like, oh, he just drew that fast? That's crazy. But once she passed, unfortunately due to lung cancer, before she passed away, she told me, like, don't give up on art, continue to do it, take it seriously, and don't let anybody take that away from you. And that was when it, like, just kind of snapped for me, where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna invest and just go into the library like almost every day and every week, learning these drawing books, getting deeper into history. Oh, they got animation softwares. I'm about to download that on the computer and crash it. I'm about to do all this type of stuff where I thought I was going to go into, like, comic book illustration. Easily found out I didn't want to do that. I thought I was going to go into animation. Easily found out I didn't want to do that either. And, like, I started applying for schools and stuff, and most of them were kind of like, yeah, I'm going to go to a general university, do that. It just didn't feel right. Like, every time I filled out the application, I was just like, you know you don't want to go to this school. And it was at a point where I was just filling out applications just for a free t-shirt, you know? And I was like, I need to just apply to art schools. And so I started asking my guidance counselor, like, you know, what is this about? Like, I don't have any art classes. I don't know what a portfolio is. I need something. And so they literally took me over to an art class, and that lady helped me out a lot. She helped me understand what a portfolio was. When the Cleveland Institute of Art visited our school, she made sure that I got a seat in there. So I got out of class and was able to go to another class and just learn about a college. But they helped me out a lot. And that was when I, like, finally started applying more pressure to, like, applying to art schools. I knew regardless I was going to go to college because that was something that was for me. I just wanted to get away from my family. I grew up with all sisters and my mom. I was like, I need to get up out of here. I want to follow my own path, and I want to make a way for myself. And so I knew regardless I was going to college, but I started focusing centrally on art schools.
Gotcha.
Which shocked my family a lot because I announced it at a cookout, which was probably the wrong thing to do. And they all looked at me crazy, like, what the hell are you doing, bro? Like, what do you mean you're going to art school? Like, we don't want you working at McDonald's. And I was like, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
I'm going to put the pressure in there. I'm going to do what I need to do. Like, this is a way for me to learn and network. Because I don't have that system now, so I need it. And so that was how I started taking it seriously, and I ended up applying to CIA literally a month before their deadline. I got into New York as well too, and I was going to go there because I wanted to get out of Ohio. Decided to stay in Ohio because, like, I literally visit CIA's campus, and I was like, I was in love with it. Like, the people remembered who I was. I didn't feel like some crazy little fish in a giant ocean. Like, it felt very community based. And so that was, like, the first steps in me, like, taking it seriously. Was like, I need to invest in this and do a big jump that's going to be uncomfortable, but I like it because I came in knowing nothing. I was very green, and I was like, my first class, this will be like the ending note to this, but we, like, walk in, it's like a observational drawing class, and one of my professors, Tony Ingressano, it was his first year starting there as well, and he was like, all right, class, we're going to be using these different pencils. It's like HB, 2B, blah, 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 and I'm sitting there looking around like, what the hell is he talking about? I've only known to use a mechanical pencil or a number 2 pencil for me to draw. I ain't know nothing about any grade of pencil or anything like that. But he actually sat there and he like walked me through it. He was like, this is when you use this one. This is when you use this one. If you want to go lighter, you use this, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I knew, like, okay, I don't regret this decision. Like, this is the perfect decision for me. I'm learning a lot and I want to drink it in.
That's amazing, man. It's a crazy testimony, like crazy in a good way. But no, I love to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. You knew not to just put yourself in that box of, let me just go get this 9 to 5, because that's what we often find ourselves so much, living for other people or for everyone else. And it's like, especially when you're younger, that is really the time to do it. Like when you're older, you have kids, you have a family, like, my first responsibility is to them. So as much as I would love to dive off of the deep end and, and give it my all at whatever that might be creatively, I'm like, I owe this to them I've set them up with, this level of lifestyle. This is what they're used to make sure that they have that. So definitely. How has your definition of success changed over the years?
Ooh, that's good. At first, my definition of success early when I was like a teen, I was like, yeah, I want to be a mega star. I want to be doing this and that. I'm going to be swimming in a pool of like money. And like, I'm going to be this huge artist. Not to say that's not still in the brain.
Right. Not to say that's still not possible.
But it was very immature. And I was like, and as I like grew up, I was just like, yeah, being a megastar is fine. That works for some people depending on like your lifestyle and what you want to take in and stuff. But then it started changing for me, and I was like, I do want to be solidified in my art career where I can make money off of it and have a sustainable living. But I also kind of want to be kind of like these evil billionaires about it, where it's like, you don't really hear from me until you need to, like you'll see my art somewhere and you get that, but it's not like I'm coming in as like Eddie Murphy and everybody's going crazy,
right? And
like there's paparazzi everywhere, and I don't want that. Like I just want it to be like I'm a person someone can feel comfortable coming up to and approaching, and having an actual human conversation with. Despite the fact that I've done all these accolades, I want people to actually feel like they can approach
like that's
me.
Davon.
Like that's Davon. You can like come in and you can chat with them up respectfully though.
Respectfully,
boundaries,
of course.
But I want people to know that I'm actually here on a human level with them and trying to actually mentor people and do that. And so my like form of success now is, as long as I'm in the arts, I'm catering to community in the ways that I see fit, which is like actually caring for them, mentoring people when they do need an ear, who will listen to them, and try to help them with whatever they're confused about. And me being consistent within my practice and evolving within my practice. I think that is what's successful to me now. And the fact that my family doesn't have to worry about, anything. Like, I just want that to be the success story for me, is that my family, all right. My daughter can like do the cool things that she wants to do without having to feel like she has to be insecure about it or anything like that. And also being able to be like a good force in the arts. And so literally when I get DMs from people like asking me about this, that, and the third, I'm like, oh yeah, let's sit and chat. Let's get a tea or a coffee or something, or let's do a studio visit. Like, I want to be that ear for peeps and I want to help them out, because I know when I was in high school and stuff, me not having that ear, me not having the support, like I don't want that for peeps. And I don't want to just be like, oh, you can't message Davon because Davon is too big.
You want to be accessible to the people. And
it's accessible to an extent as well, because I don't want people like bogging me down with
you don't want people using you for resources, but you want people to know it's an open door and you're there to help. I can totally relate to you there. Like, I find myself often, whether it be after a photo shoot, or like you said, it could just be somebody shooting me a DM, or somebody stopping me out in public, asking me questions about this or that. And before I know it, we've had a 20-minute conversation on the best kit for you to start, creating content, or all of these little things. Like, so it's being like you said, being a vessel. That's the biggest thing. Like, I'm not really here to keep, any of this information, and whatever it's for me is for me. So me helping you out, is not going to take anything off of my plate.
Yeah.
Same thing with, from photography. Like, yeah, I literally lost a client, a longtime client, by the husband. It was a family, kind of becoming their family photographer. And I wasn't mad at it. Like, his work is, I saw him when he got his first camera, and I'm like, oh, he's getting into photography. Like, cool. And he, he's pretty decent, to the point where now, like, yeah, I haven't seen them for holiday pictures in some years, but it's okay. Like, I'm glad that I was able to help guide. Not that I taught you everything, nothing like that, but I'm glad we were able to have those conversations. And again, you're able to pick up your camera and be able to capture those family memories, because outside of, the business aspect of it, some of my, favorite work has been moments where I just decided to pick up my camera and I'm taking pictures of, my family. And like one of the exhibition where we both shared having an exhibition there with Museum of Creative Human Art, which is mine was Sincerely Us at Mocha. What some of the the pieces that were like, kind of, I don't want to call them focal points, but like standout pieces, probably the best word for them, were photos of my daughter getting her hair done. Like, I'm big on art culture, and, I think that watching it for so many years, like, and it's still happening today, of, my wife and her, like, that whole battle, maybe, every couple of weeks of, and it's gotten easier. She's gotten older, but, especially when she was younger, like, she doesn't want to sit down for 2 hours to get this done. And, like, so I've watched it, many times I would just, alrighty, I'm gonna go to the other room or something like that. Because, like, when she was younger, it was a battle. Like, you're too tender-headed, that whole phrase and all of this and that. But no, it was just something I wanted to capture. But like knowing that he's able to just pick up his camera now and be able to do something like that, like, I think that's super dope.
Yeah, and it's all about creating that ecosystem as well too.
Exactly.
Like, I've never been the type of person that's afraid of someone like stealing whatever. Like, nobody can do what I do.
Exactly.
Like, I'm secure in that. If someone else is doing self-portraitures, like, I already know I'm not the first person to do that.
Right. It's what you bring to that.
It's what I bring to it that is unique. And it's like something that no one can take from me, because like I know what my work is. So if someone's asking me about like what type of oil paints you use, I give them that information. Right. There's no way that's not gonna hurt you, right, or hurt my practice at all.
Right.
And so
only you can be you. Like I can relate to you 100%. Like on the photography end of it, like I've shared with people, like, like we can both be looking at the exact same thing. It's the intention behind the photo and your eye. Like, that's the reason I'm confident enough to put this work on the wall, like, especially not being, because, earlier on when I'm like, I've always been an artist in one form or another. Like, for half my life, I rapped. Yeah. And, at a certain point I knew, like, like, I'm not leaving, to go chase that. Like, I'm like, I'm starting a family here. I'm like, so the whole, you should go to wherever to start. Like, yeah, some people do make it that way, but I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna do that. So I'm like, and I've been doing it. Literally, at the time, it was half my life. Like, I started when I was 15. Like, seriously started. Like, I'm pressing and selling mixtapes in school, performing at, like, at the time, like, large, like events and things of that nature. Like, so at this point, I was freshly 30, and I'm like, I just can't see myself doing this for, especially like I'm going to be a 40-year-old rapper. Like, and again, if you're successful at it, and we've seen people, right, then that's great. But just like a up and coming rapper, I'm like, it wasn't for me. So I definitely, relate to you there in regards to that, because how we even kind of got on that tangent is like me just sharing that, like, we can take the same photo, and it's like the intention behind it, and me knowing that what I'm doing with this is what makes it art, versus like, oh, this is just a photo that you took. Like, but all of my work speaks to, like, I'm documenting our culture, and like me taking a photo with that little boy, like, wasn't by chance. Like, him and I had a conversation, and like, okay, why did you take a picture of this little black boy with his shirt off? Like, I wanted to really focus on his face, and I'm like, him, I didn't ask him to take his shirt off. Like, that's creepy. Like, he was in that element where I saw the kind of definition of a black boy in the midsummer. Like I'm like, this is it.
And it's something we can all jump into.
Exactly.
As well. Like us as black men, like we've been that little boy, like running around on our bikes, popping wheelies in the street, doing it, whatever.
Trying to scrape up enough money just to go to the corner store.
Exactly.
Yep.
We've all been in that spot. And so, like, I definitely felt that from that piece as well, too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, it's the intention behind it. Like, they can have the same, oil paints as you, the same whatever, but it's when you approach it, like you said, it's nobody can recreate you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna close out, and I think I think this is gonna be great because we've already really kind of led up to this, and you sharing with me your journey, and how you got to this point. But what would your younger self be most proud about today?
Man, I think they would be proud that I'm actually still here and doing the arts, and I haven't navigated away from that. Like, my younger self would be excited about that. They're like, you did what? That's crazy. And like, because a lot of these things, like, I've written down as like a kid, I want to do this, or I want to work with this, or I want to be in this space. Like, even like the most recent thing is like me being a part of a group show sponsored by the Cleveland Museum of Art, which they haven't done like a group show in like decades, I don't think. Me being a part of that now, my younger self would be so proud. So he would be freaking out because like I'm in front of the museum in like my mom and dad's wedding photo. And I know that was something that was like wishing to be inside of when I was a kid.
When you took that picture.
Even though I never had been physically inside of the museum, which is crazy for me to say before college.
It might be the same for me too, really, man. Like, our kids are really blessed that, to be exposed to the arts and the culture that they have now, like, versus, I don't recall, being at a museum
in there
at the ages that my children were. So.
Exactly, it's crazy. So he would be freaking out, like, you're actually gonna be working with them, and you have a show with them.
Right.
It's insane. But he would mainly be super proud that I'm like still here, because I did go through a lot of mental health stuff throughout high school as well. And then just overcoming what I battled throughout the years, like, I think he would just be super proud of the fact that I'm just still kicking it and creating some artwork, which is like the most important part.
That's amazing, man. I really appreciate you for taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Of course.
It has been great, getting to learn more about you and hearing your journey and your story, man. So thank you for the Streetlight Conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. This is amazing. Learn more about you.